May our Father, Messiah, and the Holy Spirit be with us. Deuteronomy chapter 10. At that time, our Father in heaven said to me, carve out 2 tablets of stone like the former ones, and come up to me on the mountain and make an ark of wood. I will write on the tablets the words that were on the former tablets, which you smashed, and you shall put them in the ark. So I made an ark of acacia wood, cut 2 tablets of stone like the former ones, and went up the mountain with the 2 tablets in my hand. Then he wrote on the tablets the same words as before, the 10 commandments that our Father in heaven had spoken to you on the mountains out of the fire on the day of the assembly. And our Father in heaven gave them to me. So I turned and came down from the mountain and put the tablets in the ark that I had made. And there they are, as our Father in heaven had commanded me. The Israelites journeyed from Beeroth Benet Jaakan to Moserah. There Aaron died, and there he was buried. His son Eleazar succeeded him as priest. From there they journeyed to Gudgodah, and from Gudgodah to Jotbathah, a land with flowing streams. At that time our Father in heaven set apart the tribe of Levi to carry the ark of the covenant of our Father, to stand before our Father to minister to him, and to bless his name to this day. Therefore Levi has no allotment or inheritance with his kindred. Our Father in heaven is his inheritance, as our Father in heaven your God promised him. I stayed on the mountain 40 days and 40 nights, as I had done the first time. And once again our Father in heaven listened to me. Our Father in heaven was unwilling to destroy you. Our Father said to me, get up, go on your journey at the head of the people, that they may go in and occupy the land that I swore to their ancestors to give them. So now, O Israel, what does our Father in heaven, your God, require of you? Only to fear our Father in heaven, your God, to walk in all his ways, to love him, to serve our Father in heaven, your God, with all your heart and with all your soul, and to keep the commandments of our Father in heaven, your God, and his decrees that I am commanding you today for your own well-being. Although heaven and the heaven of heavens belong to our Father in heaven, your God, the earth with all that is in it, yet our Father in heaven set his heart in love on your ancestors alone, and chose you, their descendants after them, out of all the peoples, as it is today. Circumcise, then, the foreskin of your heart, and do not be stubborn any longer. For our Father in heaven, your God, is God of gods and King of kings, the great God, mighty and awesome, who is not partial and takes no bribe, who executes justice for the orphan and the widow, and who loves the strangers, providing them food and clothing. You shall also love the stranger, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. You shall fear our Father in heaven, your God. Him alone you shall worship. To him you shall hold fast, and by his name you shall swear. He is your praise. He is your God, who has done for you these great and awesome things that your eyes have seen. Your ancestors went down to Egypt 70 persons, and now our Father in heaven, your God, has made you as numerous as the stars in heaven. Chapter 11. You shall love our Father in heaven, your God, therefore, and keep his charge, his decrees, his ordinances, and his commandments, always. Remember today that it was not your children who have not known or seen the discipline of our Father in heaven, your God, but it is you who must acknowledge his greatness, his mighty hand, and his outstretched arm, his signs and his deeds that he did in Egypt to Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, and to all his land. What he did to the Egyptian army, to their horses and chariots, how he made the water of the Red Sea flow over them as they pursued you, so that our Father in heaven has destroyed them to this day. What he did to you in the wilderness until you came to this place, and what he did to Dathan and Abiram, sons of Eliab, son of Reuben, how in the midst of all Israel the earth opened its mouth and swallowed them up, along with their households, their tents, and every living being in their company. For it is your own eyes that have seen every great deed that our Father in heaven did. Keep, then, this entire commandment that I am commanding you today, so that you may have strength to go in and occupy the land that you are crossing over to occupy, and so that you may live long in the land that our Father in heaven swore to your ancestors, to give them and to their descendants a land flowing with milk and honey. For the land that you are about to enter to occupy is not like the land of Egypt, from which you have come, where you sow your seed and irrigate by foot like a vegetable garden. But the land that you are crossing over to occupy is a land of hills and valleys, watered by rain from the sky, a land that our Father in heaven, your God, looks after. The eyes of our Father in heaven, your God, are always on it, from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. If you will only heed his every commandment that I am commanding you today, loving your Father in heaven, your God, and serving him with all your heart and with all your soul, then he will give the rain for your land in its season, the early rain and the latter rain, and you will gather in your grain, your wine, and your oil. And he will give grass in your fields for your livestock, and you will eat your fill. Take care, or you will be seduced into turning away, serving other gods and worshiping them. For then the anger of our Father in heaven will be kindled against you, and he will shut up the heavens, so that there will be no rain, and the land will yield no fruit. Then you will perish quickly off the good land that our Father in heaven is giving you. You shall put these words of mine in your heart and soul, and you shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and fix them as an emblem on your forehead. Teach them to your children, talking about them when you are at home and when you are away, and when you lie down and when you rise. Write them on the doorpost of your house and on your gates, so that your days and the days of your children may be multiplied in the land that our Father in heaven swore to your ancestors to give them, as long as the heavens are above the earth. If you will diligently observe this entire commandment that I am commanding you, loving our Father in heaven, your God, walking in all his ways and holding fast to him, then our Father in heaven will drive out all these nations before you, and you will dispossess nations larger and mightier than yourselves. Every place on which you set your foot will be yours. Your territory shall extend from the wilderness to put Lebanon, and from the river Euphrates, to the western sea. No one will be able to stand against you. Our Father in heaven, your God, will put the fear and dread of you on all the land on which you set foot, as he promised you. See, I am setting before you today a blessing and a curse. The blessing, if you obey the commandments of our Father in heaven, your God, that I am commanding you today. And the curse, if you do not obey the commandments of our Father in heaven, your God, but turn from the way that I am commanding you today to follow other gods that you have not known. When our Father in heaven, your God, has brought you into the land that you are entering to occupy, you shall set the blessing on Mount Gerizim and the curse on Mount Ebal. As you know, they are beyond the Jordan, some distance to the west, in the land of the Canaanites who live in the Arabah, opposite Gilgal, beside the oak of Moreh. When you cross the Jordan to go into occupy the land that our Father in heaven, your God, is giving you, and when you occupy it and live in it, you must diligently observe all the statutes and ordinances that I am setting before you today. Chapter 12. These are the statutes and ordinances that you must diligently observe in the land that our Father in heaven, the God of your ancestors, has given you to occupy all the days that you live on the earth. You must demolish completely all the places where the nations whom you are about to dispossess serve their gods, on the mountain heights, on the hills, and under every leafy tree. Break down their altars, smash their pillars, burn their sacred poles with fire, and hew down the idols of their gods, and thus blot out their name from their places. You shall not worship our Father in heaven, your God, in such ways, but you shall seek the place that our Father in heaven, your God, will choose out of all your tribes as his habitation to put his name there. You shall go there, bringing there your burnt offerings and your sacrifices, your tithes and your donations, your votive gifts, your free will offerings, and the firstlings of your herds and flocks. And you shall eat there in the presence of our Father in heaven your God, you and your households together, rejoicing in all the undertakings in which our Father in heaven your God has blessed you. You shall not act as we are acting here today, all of us according to our own desires, for you have not come into the rest and the possession that our Father in heaven your God is giving you. When you cross over the Jordan and live in the land that our Father in heaven your God is allotting to you, and when he gives you rest from your enemies all around so that you live in safety, then you shall bring everything that I command you to the place that our Father in heaven your God will choose as a dwelling for his name. Your burnt offerings and your sacrifices, your tithes and your donations, and all your choice votive gifts that you vow to our Father in heaven. And you shall rejoice before our Father in heaven your God, you together with your sons and your daughters, your male and female slaves, and the Levites who reside in your towns, since they have no allotment or inheritance with you. Take care that you do not offer your burnt offerings at any place you happen to see, but only at the place that our Father in heaven will choose in one of your tribes. There you shall offer burnt offerings, and there you shall do everything I command you. Yet whenever you desire, you may slaughter and eat meat with any of your towns, according to the blessing that our Father in heaven your God has given you. The unclean and the clean may eat of it, as they would of gazelle or deer. The blood, however, you must not eat. You shall pour it out on the ground like water. Nor may you eat within your towns the tithe of your grain, your wine, and your oil, the firstlings of your herds and your flocks, any of your votive gifts that you vow, your free will offerings, or your donations. These you shall eat in the presence of our Father in heaven your God, at the place that our Father in heaven your God will choose. You together with your son and your daughter, your male and female slaves, and the Levites resident in your towns, rejoicing in the presence of our Father in heaven your God in all your undertakings. Take care that you do not neglect the Levite as long as you live in your land. When our Father in heaven your God enlarges your territory, as he has promised you, and you say, I am going to eat some meat, because you wish to eat meat, you may eat meat whenever you have the desire. If the place where our Father in heaven your God will choose to put his name is too far from you, and you slaughter, as I have commanded you, any of your herd or flock that our Father in heaven has given you, then you may eat within your towns whenever you desire. Indeed, just as gazelle or deer is eaten, so you may eat it. The unclean and the clean alike may eat it. Only be sure that you do not eat the blood, for the blood is the life, and you shall not eat the life with the meat. Do not eat it. You shall pour it out on the ground like water. Do not eat it, so that all may go well with you and your children after you, because you do what is right in the sight of our Father in heaven. But the sacred donations that are due from you, and your votive gifts, you shall bring to the place that our Father in heaven will choose. You shall present your burnt offerings, both the meat and the blood, on the altar of our Father in heaven your God. The blood of your other sacrifices shall be poured out beside the altar of our Father in heaven your God, but the meat you may eat. Be careful to obey all these words that I command you today, so that it may go well with you and with your children after you forever, because you will be doing what is good and right in the sight of our Father in heaven your God. When our Father in heaven your God has cut off before you the nations whom you are about to enter to dispossess them, when you have dispossessed them and live in their land, take care that you are not snared into imitating them after they have been destroyed before you. Do not inquire concerning their gods, saying, how did these nations worship their gods? I also want to do the same. You must not do the same, for our Father in heaven your God, because every abhorrent thing that our father hates, they have done for their gods. They would even burn their sons and their daughters in the fire to their gods. You must diligently observe everything that I command you. Do not add to it or take anything from it. 13. If the prophets or those who divine by dreams appear among you and promise you omens or portents, and the omens or the portents declared by them take place, and they say, let us follow other gods, whom you have not known, and let us serve them. You must not heed the words of those prophets or those who divine by dreams. For our Father in heaven, your God, is testing you to know whether you indeed love your Father, your God, with all your heart and soul. Our Father in heaven, your God, shall you follow. Him alone you shall fear. His commandments you shall keep. His voice you shall obey. Him you shall serve, and to him you shall hold fast. But those prophets or those who divine by dreams shall be put to death for having spoken treason against our Father in heaven, your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt and redeemed you from the house of slavery, to turn you from the way in which our Father in heaven, your God, commanded you to walk. So you shall purge the evil from your midst. If anyone secretly entices you, even if it is your brother, your father's son, or your mother's son, or your own son or daughter, or the wife you embrace, or the most intimate friend, saying, let us go worship other gods, whom neither you nor your ancestors have known, any of the gods of the people that are around you, whether near you or far away from you, from one end of the earth to the other, you must not yield to or take or heed any such persons. Show them no pity or compassion, and do not shield them, but you shall surely kill them. Your own hand shall be the first against them to execute them, and afterwards the hands of all the people. Stone them to death for trying to turn you away from our Father in heaven, your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. Then all Israel shall hear and be terrified and be afraid, and never again do such wickedness. If you hear it said about one of the towns that our Father in heaven, your God, is giving you to live in, that scoundrels from among you have gone out and led the inhabitants of the town astray, saying, let us go and worship other gods, whom you have not known, then you shall inquire and make a thorough investigation. If the charge is established that such an abhorrent thing has been done among you, you shall put the inhabitants of that town to the sword, utterly destroying it and everything in it, even putting its livestock to the sword. All of its spoil you shall gather into its public square, then burn the town and all its spoil with fire, as a whole burnt offering to our Father in heaven, your God. It shall remain a perpetual ruin, never to be rebuilt. Do not let anything devoted to destruction stick to your hand, so that our Father in heaven may turn from his fierce anger and show you compassion, and in his compassion multiply you, as he swore to your ancestors, if you obey the voice of our Father in heaven, your God, by keeping all his commandments that I am commanding you today, doing what is right in the sight of our Father in heaven, your God. Chapter 14. You are the children of our Father in heaven, your God. You must not lacerate yourselves or shave your forelocks of the head. For you are a people holy to our Father in heaven, your God. It is you, our Father in heaven, has chosen out of all the peoples on the earth to be his people, his treasured possession. You shall not eat any abhorrent thing. These are the animals you may eat: the ox, the sheep, the goat, the deer, the gazelle, the roebuck, the wild goat, the ibex, the antelope, the mountain sheep. Any animal that divides the hoof and has the hoof cleft in two, and chews the cud among the animals, you may eat. Yet of those that chew the cud or have the hoof cleft, you shall not eat these: the camel, the hare, the rock badger, because they chew the cud but do not divide the hoof. They are unclean for you. And the pig, because it divides the hoof but does not chew the cud, is unclean for you. You shall not eat their meat, and you shall not touch their carcasses. Of all that live in water you may eat these. Whatever has fins and scales you may eat, and whatever does not have fins and scales you shall not eat. It is unclean for you. You may eat any clean birds, but these are the ones you shall not eat. the eagle, the vulture, the osprey, the buzzard, the kite of any kind, every raven of any kind, the ostrich, the nighthawk, the seagull, the hawk of any kind, the little owl, and the great owl, the water hen, and the desert owl, the carrion vulture, and the cormorant, the stork, the heron of any kind, the hoopoe, and the bat. And all the winged insects are unclean for you. They shall not be eaten. You may eat any clean winged creature. You shall not eat anything that dies of itself. You may give it to the aliens residing in your towns for them to eat, or you may sell it to a foreigner. For you are a people holy to our Father in heaven, your God. You shall not boil a kid in its mother's milk. Set apart a tithe of all the yield of your seed that is brought in yearly from the field. In the presence of our Father in heaven, your God, in the place that he will choose as a dwelling for his name, you shall eat the tithe of your grain, your wine, and your oil, as well as the firstlings of your flock, of your herd and flock, so that you may learn to fear our Father in heaven, your God, always. But if, when our Father in heaven, your God, has blessed you, the distance is so great that you are unable to transport it, because the place where our Father in heaven will choose to set his name is too far away from you, then you may turn it into money. With the money secure in hand, go to the place that our Father in heaven, your God, will choose. Spend the money for whatever you will: oxen, sheep, wine, strong drink, or whatever you desire. And you shall eat there in the presence of our Father in heaven, your God, you and your household rejoicing together. As for the Levites resident in your towns, do not neglect them, because they have no allotment or inheritance with you. Every third year you shall bring out the full tithe of your produce for that year, and store it within your towns. The Levites, because they have no allotment or inheritance with you, as well as the resident aliens, the orphans, and the widows in your towns, may come and eat their fill, so that our Father in heaven, your God, may bless you in all the work that you undertake. Father willing, we will continue with Deuteronomy chapter 15. May our Father, Messiah, and the Holy Spirit be with us. Repent. The kingdom of heaven is near. Peace.